Okay. So for this first question, what's your name? Where do you teach? How long have you taught? And how long have you taught computer science?
My name is Terry Julian, and I teach for Hastings Public Schools. I actually teach teachers, so I'm a tech integration person, sort of, and been teaching computer science to kids since I think 2015. And I've mostly done it in after school programs and also in going into the classrooms to help the teachers get started and then supporting them as they move forward. So
How does teaching after school compare to doing it in the classroom? Are there different things you focus on or different things you're trying to do?
yeah, I feel like I can give them more freedom because I don't have I don't have to have a curriculum. I don't have to have standards and things like that. But that can also be a challenge as well because sometimes you're moving along and you're like, hey guys, we're not making anything, like we're not creating anything. So just trying to figure out what program will keep the kids engaged because they don't have to be there. So you don't want to like give them assignments or whatever. That's really been the struggle. And then it's so sporadic. Like you'll have it for several weeks and then you won't because there's no school that day or um whatever. So that's been a bit of a challenge because I just do it once a week. So and I'm not at that school, so that makes it a little difficult.
Hmm. That makes sense. Out of the two, which do you prefer yourself to teach, the after school or into the classroom?
I liked it in the classroom because I went when we went through ERA NE, and that's how I got started. Well, no, I started before that, I guess. I started with our service unit. Actually, I heard Guy at NEDA one year and how much we needed computer science. And then I was talking to the gals at ESU 9, and one of them helped me start a coding club at one of our elementaries and at our middle school. And then I had help from ESU 9. And then after that year, I got at one time we had a computer science, well, what would we call it? Coding club or whatever at each of the elementaries. I've been doing the one at the middle school. So we've had those for many years. And then COVID came and we lost all the ones at the elementary schools. So hopefully I can somehow get those back. And then I've just kept going with the one at the middle school through COVID, through everything. So I appreciate that. But when I went into the classroom, I gave every Friday for a whole year to second grade classroom at one of our elementary schools. And I did two second grade classrooms because I wanted to be fair and whatever. So, and that was excellent because you could move along, you could have a plan, you could um, kind of like have a scope and sequence basically. Whereas with the after school club, it's like, I don't know, I just haven't done as well with that as I could, I suppose. But I also don't have a lot of time. It's kind of like on my own time or whatever, and I just don't have a lot of time to get that together and plan it. But
That makes sense. After school clubs are definitely not the forefront issue for a lot of teachers. I remember I helped out at some after school clubs during my student teaching, and it certainly was not my main focus during my student teaching.
yeah, one, you can't make them come. So one week they'll be there, the next week they won't. It's really hard to have consistency. So that'd be my only complaint about that. And some of them
Well,
just hang out. So like, as long as you're not causing trouble, help yourself. So
yeah. In terms of getting those after school clubs started in the elementary space and all that, what's been your primary approach to get teacher buy-in to help run those clubs or to teach a bit of CS and get comfortable with computer science?
for the after school clubs, like I said, I haven't gotten teachers engaged since 2020. Before that, we had a foundation. Well, we still have a foundation, but our Hastings Public Schools Foundation would give them a stipend like once a year or something. It was only like $250 for the year. But I don't know, since COVID, they just haven't seemed as interested, and I really haven't pushed it a lot. So maybe I can get back in there and see if I can get some doing it.
Okay. So you had mentioned you're a tech coordinator. Is that a role that you went to school for, or is it just like teaching and as time went on, you kind of stepped into this role?
I'm a tech facilitator. It's a little
Sorry,
different than a
sorry.
coordinator, I think, just because I'm not an administrator. So I just I did kind of step into that. I've got an elementary education major, which I just finished in 2016, finished student teaching in 2016. And before I finished my degree, I came to the central office to work for the tech department. And when I came here, my boss was like, one thing I really want you to focus on is training teachers with technology. So I did kind of step into it, and it's not, in our district, it's not a degree. Like I don't have to have a degree to do it. So
Okay,
I'm not on a teacher contract, nothing like that. So
that makes sense. How
most
did you get
districts, it is a teaching.
interesting? I didn't know that. What if it is a degree, then like is that like a particular name, or is it like a teaching degree with a certification, or
Yeah, you can get technology leadership, I think. But I don't think you have to. I don't think that's a requirement, but it would be helpful. I've thought about going back for it, but time and money is why I don't, because I just would love to learn more. So that would be why I would.
no, yeah, absolutely, that makes sense.
I'm still
Uh,
in my undergrad.
yeah, I mean, I completed my teaching degree and I haven't used it a ton, but there's a nice sense of completion to it once you're finished that degree.
And you can use it if you want
Yes,
to.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like definitely opportunities out there.
absolutely. How did you get started? I mean, you talked a bit about stepping into the computer science role after that talk with Guy. Is that what kind of got you interested in the field of computer science education, or is there things before that that kind of leaned you towards technology?
No, I would say with technology, yeah, I was a tech para before I was here at the district office. And I still would have been a tech para going to college to be a teacher when I heard Guy speak. And that's why I wasn't able to do a lot. And it was nice that ESU 9 came in and did it because I was going to school full time and and working. But that was what really got me started. And then the opportunity for ERA NE was amazing. And then the fact that we had to commit and our district had to commit to having you in a classroom, which I had no trouble with. I really don't. Our administrators are super supportive. It's just finding the time and the resources to get in there and do it. And then like trying to get the teachers to understand how much fun it is and it really how easy it is, and then trying to get them the resources, like just different devices. We've got some Ozo bots and B bots and things like that that now I need to learn how to use. And my problem is, how do you use it in the regular curriculum? I don't know. I've never taught regular curriculum because I've never been in a classroom. So
Sure.
I've done the tech para, I've helped in classrooms, I've gone into classrooms and shown them a little bit of stuff, but I've not actually taught the core curriculum. So that's a little bit of a challenge for me. But I've got a lot of teachers I collaborate with too, so I think we can move it forward. But and then so let's see what I can't remember what else you asked.
Oh, I was more just, yeah,
Did I?
like how did you come to computer science? But obviously you had an interest in technology from, I would assume,
Oh yeah,
far, far before that with the tech
yeah,
para role.
yeah, yeah. I was a tech para for 10 years and then started doing that. And then that on ERA NE, I did the first year as a student, and then I helped with it for 2 years after that. So and then got involved with CSTA with Alan Holdorf. And so just all of that stuff has been just keeps bringing it to the forefront. If I wanted to forget it, I wouldn't be able to because it's always in front of me, which I really like it. And I really feel it's important for kids to get the chance to know. So yeah.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, this is my first year out of my undergrad, but we didn't even talk about organizations like CSTA and finding out about it and the support that they can provide and things like that has been, it feels like it should be mentioned a little more, at least pre-service, with how important technology is. Uh, One of the questions I had here is, what are some of the I mean, you've mentioned a few, but what are some of the struggles you've encountered in your journey through computer science education? And what are some of the victories you've experienced while both teaching teachers, since that's primarily your role, but like what are some struggles with teachers? What are some victories you've had with teachers?
Struggles would be time. The time to do it, the time to get in there. and access to devices. But that you don't have to have devices, so I don't see that as a real struggle, but it is nice to have devices. It seems to get me in there a lot faster. Um, I would say mostly time. Like I can only go in there for a little bit. Like I had one gal, she's like, I want you to come in every month or every Friday or whatever. I can't do that because I'm district wide. So time. And then time and on their part too, because they're like, we don't have time for this. And they really don't feel like they do. So being able to go in and just, do some lessons with them and show them how engaged the kids are. And, then they end up finding time to do some different things. Um, so, and then like, I think time also because the administrators, like, they know that it's a requirement now, but to them it's just overwhelming because we don't have time for this, and so that's what I'm trying to do is help people see that it doesn't take a lot of time and it's really fun. It's not a burdensome task. It's like really fun to do with your kids. So yeah. And time for me to actually learn how to use the devices. We've got drones and Tetrix kits and um some I can't think something with Arduinos. I can never remember which ones those are. Got all these kits and I don't know what to do with them. And I don't have time to sit and learn. So I've been trying to like, could we do some workshops so we can figure out where to get started with these? And I haven't gotten anywhere with that. So that's a lot of it. Because I have a lot of different hats I wear. So I don't really have a lot of time to just sit and play like you really need to be able to do or at least have some knowledge ahead of time so you could do something. But
So, are you the only person in your role for your district, the only tech facilitator?
mhm.
Would you think that's fairly common for most districts past like Lincoln, Omaha area to have that?
Oh no, no, they usually have one in every school,
Every school.
at least
Okay,
one in every school, and they probably have a computer science teacher in each school, like LPS and OPS.
sure,
I don't know
sure.
if OPS does as much. I know LPS is big on computer
Yeah,
science.
I guess like the more rural districts, do you think it's fairly common
Yeah.
that there's just like one tech facilitator like yourself for that district?
The smaller ones, yes. Yeah. But sometimes they have a teacher that does technology as well and helps them or whatever.
Okay,
Yeah. And
okay.
probably if that was my only role, that might be a different thing. But I'm also wellness, social media. I help with the student information system, and I'm not complaining. There's just a lot. And then managing things on the back end, like
Oh yeah.
Clever, Securely, Google, like all that stuff. So yeah, probably if we could just focus, but we can't. Like we just don't have the finances to have people for each of those. So
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was one thing I learned right away in student teaching. Every teacher has two or three hats that just aren't listed on their job title.
yeah, it gets you more engaged, but it's also sometimes you can take on too much if you're not careful. So
Through your experiences at both AIR and teaching teachers, would you consider yourself a computer scientist, or do you draw a distinction between what you're doing and what you think of as a computer scientist?
I would say there's a difference. For one thing, I don't like I have equipment I don't know what to do with. So I'd like to find someone that really is. I would love to find people in the field, especially here in the Hastings area. I've tried to get connections with our colleges because both CCC and Hastings College have some computer science, and I've not been able to make those connections or like with businesses. So I feel like I can get people started and help them, but I just feel like I could do so much more if I was a computer scientist or had more training in that area,
Okay.
or just get someone else in that does. Thus, facilitator.
So, in your mind, a computer scientist is a person, it's like a designated role type of thing for whatever they're doing, and they're explicitly focused on just this piece of it rather than kind of,
That's what I feel like. Yeah.
okay. This next question is more on your perspectives of the whole of computer science education based on both your experience and just your own knowledge of the space. What are some of the shortcomings you have noticed or experienced in the field currently?
Here in Hastings, we don't have we only have one specific class so far. and that's at our middle school, and that's just elective. So the lack of those, we didn't have anything at the high school. We will starting next year. Um, and that person will be brand new to it. So thankfully he's gonna, there's so many resources out there that you can start in brand new and move forward. And so I'm excited about that. But in our elementaries, we have some teachers that do it on their own, mostly code.org. Um, and there are a few other things that they're using, but it's just not consistent. So I would like to see it, more consistent.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I guess going off of that high school piece, prepping for the new standards and everything, has there been any new struggles besides just finding a person who can teach it? Or
Um, Understanding what exactly is required. I feel like at the high school, they've kind of like solidified that. Middle school is still kind of, I feel like, up in the air. So sometimes there are thoughts, oh, we're already doing that. We're not. So I didn't want that to fall through the wayside or fall through the cracks and just be like, oh, we're already teaching typing. We've got this. It's like, no, it's way more than typing. So I think understanding when, like, if you ask, even if you ask me, I don't know. I feel like I don't give a very solid answer when you say, what does it mean to teach computer science? So I think a clear, like, definition, and maybe they don't want a clear definition. Maybe they want to keep it broad. I don't know. But I know that they've started with the high school, made that like these are your standards, and they're kind of like doing that with the other ones, but just not making it as much required. It's like you can do it sometimes. At the high school, they're like you have to do a semester and it has to be this many credits and stuff like that. So that's helpful. But yeah.
oh, that makes sense. Uh, what's I mean, I guess you've talked a lot about consistency. The question is, what would something you would change? Would it be just finding a way to insert that consistency for the subject across like K-12?
Yeah, and so they could get it like no matter what elementary school they went to. And that's always a struggle with curriculum from what I'm understanding as I work with the curriculum director on some different things, is it's really hard to make sure it's consistent all throughout the district. So if they do happen to move to a different school in the district, they're getting the same thing.
Yeah, one thing I talked to Susan, I think last week, and one thing she had mentioned is she would love to see collaboration across like that K-12 spectrum that you kind of see with math and reading, where students are building up each step.
Mhm.
And that it's definitely something that seems like would make a lot of sense for something like CS, which can be a little hard to broach as you're getting older and if you've never touched it before.
Yeah, and I think that is exactly right. Well, for instance, I talked to the middle school and high school teachers and they're like, we're going to teach these kids coding and they can't type. So like how important it is that they're able to type by the time they leave elementary, and some of those things, like getting those more, like making it more required or something like this is a standard and it has to be passed by the time they go on would be nice so that that's consistent.
So like a standard that's based on their ability to type, would you like to see that underneath the umbrella of computer science standards or in a different space?
It's actually already a technology standard, I think,
Okay,
for like by the time they leave fifth grade, they should be able to type, and that's not what's happening. So,
interesting.
and I hear that like in a lot of different districts, not just ours. So I think it's just because there's so much emphasis on the test scores with reading and math and things like that. And so that's where the focus is. And then there's not a lot of time. We know we need computers, but we need to get these things done too. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, when I student taught, it was at least an hour and a half of math and reading every day, and then everything else is kind of on a rotation cycle. We might have it today, we might have it next week, but
yes, exactly.
uh, what's been your favorite aspect, I mean, of teaching computer science to teachers and interacting with them about it?
The fact that they all love it, like I don't, even the kids, like you go in there and they love it. But you have to keep with the kids, I've noticed it's not as easy to keep them engaged. Like you really have to bring other things in. But I've gone and taught college students, teachers, kids, and they're all just so engaged, and you're like, okay, guys, we're gonna have to stop now. Get to a place where you can stop, because it really is very engaging, and it's oh man, code.org and different ones where they just step them through it and you don't even have to do anything, but you can pop in and reinforce the skills. It just makes it so easy. But I'd say engagement is my favorite.
No. In terms of engagement, you've mentioned kind of how the kids they can get disengaged quickly. Is that just based on the type of thing? Like, is there a particular one that holds their attention a lot easier than others?
Most of the time, well, okay, so if you bring in Ozobots, you've got their attention for a little bit until they learn how to use them, and then you need to move on to how does this work in the curriculum. And I don't go that far. But so like second or third time, some of the older kids will be like, okay, I'm done. I figured out how to make these move or whatever. And sometimes they haven't figured it out yet. They just don't have that persistence and that perseverance, like stamina to do that stuff, but it's very small percent that you lose with that. Um, and I think like definitely the computer programs keep them engaged, but we don't want to have them on that all the time. Hands-on, definitely. They really like to be able to make the robots move and things like that. And I try not to ever let them control them with remote, because that's what they want to do. They don't want to try to code them or figure that kind of stuff out. And there's not as much problem solving with that. So like our drones, we need to figure out they know how to control them, but they don't know how to code them. That's why teachers haven't been using them. So I have to figure that out. But
Interesting. That's something I hadn't thought about, but that makes a lot of sense. You don't want them to just drive it around like an RC car. You want them to actually program them.
yeah, and if you start with that, you have a hard time trying to get them to do the other. So
Interesting. For the teachers, for engagement, is it mostly based around like introducing the tool and then letting them kind of uh, fly away with the potentials in the curriculum, or is it kind of talking about them like here's a potential place to insert it or a potential integration point here?
usually what I do is just teach them what it is and let them fly. And some will go further and some won't. I think if I could concentrate more on, okay, now this is how you could apply it. But again, I've not been in the classroom, so I'm not familiar with the curriculum. So that is a little more difficult for me. But remembering to go back to the resources that we got through ERA, NE, or through what we have on conneCTION, I think would be helpful, or direct them there. But they have to really want to take that extra time, unless I know what they're teaching and can go in. And that would be my goal. But again, time gets in the way. So
Absolutely. I guess this isn't one I had, but one I was thinking about in terms of the differences, because obviously ARED and E took place in Lincoln. A lot of the teachers there are from LPS originally. I think in the first cohort, we had a lot of LPS teachers. What, what are some of the big differences you notice in Hastings? I don't think, at least in my mind, I don't think of Hastings as rural, but I think classification wise is considered rural. Compared to something more suburban, urban with Lincoln and Omaha. What are some of the challenges that you've seen with computer science?
um one thing that I think CSTA and ERA NE have helped with is that you feel so isolated, because you're talking about computer science all the time and everybody else is like, they don't know what you mean. They haven't heard anything about it. So I think that makes a difference. And then at LPS, they've got so many in their area that they actually have a PLC. They actually have things that they do together. And so it's going to grow a lot faster there. So I just feel like out here, we're just kind of chirping and chirping and trying to get people to get it or whatever. And that would be the difference, I think, in the rural areas compared to suburban. So
Interesting. That's one thing that we've seen too, is it's hard sometimes to get teachers to come to things just because they already have so much on their plate, so many other things. And by the time the school day's over, it's like, okay, I've done my whole time. I want to spend some time with my family. I want to decompress. And it's hard to get them to commit to something else outside of that.
yeah. And to try and stay focused on what they have to teach, and then to
Hmm.
try to get them to add this other, which many people are like, yes, we need that. And if I can just get in there and help them get started, a lot of times they're like, oh, wow, yeah, this is really helpful. we can use it here or here, but you don't know until you talk to them.
Yeah,
And they
absolutely.
don't know until you talk to them.
With a lot of the teachers that you have worked with in the different districts and such, how many of them have any kind of formal background, like either professional development or even some kind of certification or even a degree with computer science?
None.
None of them. Just like they just have an interest in it and they want to, and that they feel the need for it, and so they want to make sure it's available.
Yeah, because so you're asking about the ones that I work with. I can tell you two people in our district that have some sort of computer science degree, and that they did through something through Omaha, a STEM program through Omaha or something like that. About the same time I was doing ERA NE, they were doing this other one. So I think it was STEM. I don't remember what it was called, but they did something through there. So they're the only two I know of that actually even have that. Because I don't, is there a computer science certification or degree yet in
Not
Nebraska?
not that I know of. In my undergrad, I did an information technology certification, but I don't even know how standardized that is across the state.
Mm-hmm. And I
So
know back, oh, probably 13 years ago, because it was before I left the school building and came out here. The one gal got oh, what did she get? I think it might have been instructional technology, but something like that. And it wasn't even considered for moving over or some, I don't remember what she said, but like it wasn't an actual degree. So it was just different. Like, so hopefully they're getting that stuff. And I think they are. Sean kind of said something about that, that they were even going to help pay for people to get those certifications or professional development and things like that.
I guess bringing up information technology, uh, as a tech facilitator, I assume you also deal quite a bit with the information technology things in the classroom. How do you differentiate that when you're talking to teachers? Like, well, this part is more computer science. This part is really just information technology.
Um, I don't even necessarily have those conversations with them. What I usually do is whatever they want to incorporate. We just are not super systematic about getting that stuff in, like those standards. Just not. So I think they have it in the back of their mind and they try to add different technology, but as far as meeting standards and stuff, I don't think it's a focus. So,
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think I have a ton of other questions. Is there anything else you would like to say for the recording? Or
um, no, I think it's a good thing and I think that it's needed. Resources, connections, just how do we get people to engage is that's always a question with whatever you're trying to do. And I think that the more the requirement is, um, what do you say? The more we're held accountable for the requirements and the standards, the more that the resources will be valued. But